All right, and here we are with the incentive bonus program and the retention bonus program. We have put them together to make one webinar for today. So we are going to kick it off. Let's get this going. All right, starting with the incentive bonus program. We want to make sure that when we are building out these incentive bonus programs, that we are tying it to the actual practice. I'm not going to go too far in that right now, but it's just giving you an overview on what this program is meant to look like. We want to make sure it's robust. We want to make sure that everyone is winning, including the practice. So we're going to start with the incentive bonus program to start with. We want to make sure that your scorecard, we call this a scorecard, that you're going to base your incentive bonus on is based on the financial goals of the practice. We want to make sure, obviously, that these goals are attainable. We'll go through that in a second. We are going to set what that looks like over the course of what we call a duration, whether it be a quarter, whether it be a month or a year. You want to make sure that it is measurable. Okay. It's not just attainable, but measurable. And obviously, we're going to set a budget allocation. Now let's design. We're going to start with team buy-in. Ask your team, what is their goal? How can we make it good for them? Most of the time, it has to do with patient care, good medicine, preventative care. These are the types of points that your team will gravitate to. So try and move that conversation towards that. But you want to make sure that you are guiding them to something that is going to be a true metric that's going to be tied to the organization objectives. So look at some data that you go, how do I make this better? Maybe it is increasing your fecals or increasing dental bookings. Find out what you did in the last, say, year. Find out how much you want to increase that by. Let's just call it 40% over the course of a year. Now, is it 10% per quarter? Maybe. You got to find out what you want to increase, right? And look at those data points. Once you understand what you want, ask your team, what's important to you? How do we tie certain metrics, or what do we want to get better at doing, and try and gravitate towards these data points that you have already done some homework on? So maybe throw out some examples. What about if we increased our cohorts? What about if we increased their fecals? Or what about if we did Google reviews or something like that? Give them some examples to tie to latch onto, right? To resonate. They'll give you some examples. Maybe these examples aren't what you had done some homework on already, but it gives them a starting point. And maybe they're wanting to do something else that you haven't thought about. And that's also okay. All you need to do is find out what you did in the past to where you're going to go in the future. Okay. And obviously, we want to make sure that we are always reviewing our goals. We also want to make sure that it is fair. When I say fair, I have like a 3-tiered system. Things like tenure with a company, hours worked, goals achieved. This is a 3-tier section. So we're able to take the subjectiveness away from it and stick with the actual objective facts. So when we are going to set these goals, make sure it's in line to the financial goals of the practice as well. And also when we are going to set a budget, you want to make sure that you can afford this budget. There's a different conversation about having that budget allocated and setting the budget aside. We'll get into that. So step by step, we want to define the goals, find out what that looks like, what that measurement looks like. You want to calculate the performance. And I told you, the tiered system, goals achieved, hours worked, tenure with a company. Because in my view, the 3-month brand new CSR isn't going to earn or give you return on investment the same as someone who's been with you for 3 years. Those are very different scales. So I believe that they're entitled to little or none until they reach the 6-month point. At 6 months, and they're entitled to a little bit. And then after a year, they're entitled to more, and then continue on like that. I will show you how I would look that out and determine what the bonus amount is. Now, again, is it quarterly? Is it monthly? Is it yearly? You get to have these options for you. But again, you need to make sure you put money aside for it, because if your team does hit these goals, you want to make sure you have money ready to pay them. Calculate the total goals performance. We're going to go through this. Now, what we didn't talk about is the completion trigger point. For me, I want to make sure that my team is motivated to hit a base. That base can be set. Maybe it's 40% of completed goals or 60% of completed goals. I've had clients that set theirs at 30. I've also had clients that set theirs at 60. Mine's at 60. So anyone can change that. It all depends on what you're looking for. So let's see an example. All right, so here you can see that this is the incentive bonus program that I've created. Now, in this example, you see that I've got 6 goals. You can change it to 4, 5, 6, even 8 if you want to. I don't recommend so many, only because there are so many things to track. Keep it up to about 6, or probably no more than 6, to be completely honest. We want to make sure that everyone is able to understand or remember what these goals are and keep them back in mind. When you're having 15 things that you need to track, it's just not going to be cohesive and it's not going to be laser focused. So, I've kept mine at 6, no more than 6. Again, you can have 4, no problem. You just want to understand what that looks like. Now, for the moment, we want to keep it nice and easy. We're going to say that all these goals have been completed. You can see here we've entered the goals. I've just entered 1 to 6. Completed, yes or no. I've said yes. And anything in white, basically, you can play with, but nothing in the blue is the short answer here. Obviously, entered any goals. So if you're going to have 6, make sure this is number 6. This is the trigger point I was talking to you about. So mine's set at 60. You can change this to whatever percentage you like, but we're going to keep it at 60 so you get to see what that looks like. Look at the duration bonus. Now, is it 1 quarter? Is it a month? What this looks like, and you just give you an example. Okay, if you are going to be paying monthly, how many days a week is everybody usually working? Is it 4? Is it 5? Just change that here. So mine's set to 4. And if it's monthly, that means that if someone's working 10 hours a day and 4 days a week, they're going to say 160 hours is going to be allocated for that month. That's presuming that everyone's working 40 hours. It could be less, it could be more, but 160 hours. Then you set the budget. The budget, we can make it 12. We can call it 2,000 just to, for argument's sake, just, for 2,000 per month, or we can have it to per quarter. And you can see here, I've done per quarter. It changed the hours. Being the maximum that someone can be working, unless it's overtime, is 520 hours, but that's all we're going to be paying for, 520 hours. Set your eligibility for hours. So in this example, I've set that any more than 95% of hours worked, or 100% being 520 or more, they're entitled to 100%. So between 95.1 to 100% is classified as 100%. And anywhere from 90 to 95 is 90% and so forth. Now you'll see here that I've set it to be 20 to 40% of required hours, and I have given them something. The reason why I've said that is because maybe, just maybe, you have that tech or an assistant that does 1 day a week because they're in school. Maybe they're in tech school. Maybe they're in university or something, and they just work for you part-time, but they've been with you for 2 years or 3 years. In that 1 day, they can absolutely affect these numbers for you. They can contribute. So you don't want to discount them altogether, but you have the option, of course, to remove that completely. Tenure with a company. Now, I've said here that anything below 3 months, you're not entitled to anything because you're still in training. In my opinion, it is my humble opinion. Between 3 and 6 months, maybe they can affect it a little bit. They're learning, they're repeating the educational points that you're giving them through your face training. So I'll give them 20%. 6 to 12 months, then it's something called 35%. And then obviously more than 12 months is 45%. You can change this, of course. Everything is customizable. Anything in white is completely customizable. But again, if you're going to build this yourself, this is how I've structured it. I'm just giving you some examples. But this is where the magic happens. So let's go up here and say, well, right now we have said that they've completed 100% of the goals. There's 6 goals here. And the trigger point is 60. The incentive bonus is 2,000, right? So by everyone theoretically completing 100% is entitled to divide 2,000 amongst the people. How many people? It's completely up to you, obviously. Now, the names in this example don't matter. The hire dates do matter because it gives you the date and when they were hired to present date. In this example, 32 months for this person, 21 months for this person, 9 months for this person, 32 months, et cetera, et cetera. Now, remember, the total amount of hours to be worked in the period of a quarter is 520 hours. So let's just do some random numbers, and I'm going to make these up legit. So let's call this person 580, maybe this one's 500, and maybe this is 45, and maybe this is 300. And I'm going to keep making numbers up. These may not even make sense, like that one. and we're going to call this one 100, and maybe this one is, well, I missed. Is there any 520s? No 520s. Okay, it's 520s. All right. So let's start with the very first one. Now, you've seen that this person has worked 92% of the hours, so therefore they're entitled to 90% of the pot. This person has worked more than 95%, therefore 100%. And the next one is also 100%. Now, the third one, or fourth one, they've been here for 32 months, they've worked 300 hours, and the percentage is 57.5%. So therefore they're entitled to 30%. And you can see where it goes. But what I want to draw your attention to here is the person that has been here for 32 months, worked 100 hours, and is not entitled to anything because they got less than 20%. Okay? You might say it's a bit unfair. You set the rules. Okay? What I want to make a disclaimer here is if they have taken sick days or any paid time off, I include that in these hours. Remember, these hours are paid hours. Now, you could say, but what if they took 3 months off? Okay, well, then that took 3 months off. They were entitled to it. You can change these rules. These are just my rules. But these total numbers that they have worked, I call it paid hours. Whether or not they've taken them sick days or paid time off or actually worked it, that's what gets added onto it. Now, you can get these numbers very easily from your payroll software. It's very easy to get these numbers, right? Now, as I said, going through here, we've completed 100% of the goals that you've set. Therefore, bonus earned. So this area here ties directly with the hours. This bonus here is the tenure, right? So we've got hours. This particular bonus here is about the hours worked. This particular bonus is about how long you've been with the company. Now, we've already set those parameters. So any more than 12 months. So this person here, the very first one, has been here more than 12 months. Therefore, they're entitled to 45%, okay, of the pool. The prorated bonus is goals completed. Now, we've said 100% of the 6 were completed. That means 2,000 of that pot is going to be allocated according to the parameter that you set. In this case, the first person is going to be entitled to $458 per quarter. The next one is $508. And I'll tell you the difference. This person worked an extra 10% more. So they got 10% more, $50. Same tenure, more hours. Next one, more hours, lesser tenure. They got 178. They've been here for 9 months, so they weren't entitled to the 45. They were entitled to 35. Okay? I know this could be a little bit confusing. It's all built into the system. So at the end of the day, we've got how many people that we have here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 team members. You can choose to include doctors. I do not, but mostly it is techs and assistants and CSRs and kennel assistants, any support team members, including your managers, because they're going to hold the team accountable as well. They're going to drive these points forward. So at the end of the day, $2,000 was in the prize pool because that's what you've set here. That's your budget. It says your budget for the quarter based on 100% of goals completed. So you've allotted the whole $2,000. But what if they didn't complete the 100% of the goals? That's fine. Let's call the last 2 not completed. And automatically you can see that the average is 67%. What's the trigger point? The trigger point is 60%. So they're still entitled to bonuses. But how much do they get now? Well, because they only completed 67% of the goals, then 67% of the pot is now allocated. Same hours, same time, same everything else, only $1,333.33 will be allocated amongst everybody who's worked. In this case, this person who got $450 is now going to get $305, and this person will get $339, and so forth, based on goals completed, tenure, total hours worked or paid, and then goals completed is going to give you your prize pool. Once again, I'll go through what happens if they did not meet goals. So now, got 6 goals, 3 of them they didn't get. They've got an average of 50. What's the trigger point? 60. Are they entitled to anything? Absolutely no, because they didn't reach the capacity. Just for argument's sake, we're going to call this 30%. So 30% trigger point, $1,000. Because $1,000 or 50% right, is $1,000 of $2,000. Okay. So the trigger point is still 30. Yes, they hit 30% or more, then the trigger point happens. If you want to change this to 40%, the same thing occurs. 40% of the $2,000, 40% is the trigger point. They still achieve 50% of the goals completed. They're still entitled to the $1,000. If we change this one to yes, back to 67, you'll see that that didn't change the pot, still at $1,333. Okay. So that is the incentive bonus. And this is the policy that I've put together in terms of what defines the incentive bonus. Any questions on that? Of course, the more people you add, the less people get. So I would recommend that if you've got 20 people, I don't think $2,000 a quarter is going to be, enough to incentivize them. I think you need to look at what is respectable per quarter for people to achieve, and then go, okay, if I want everyone to achieve $500 every quarter based on 100% of goals completed, and if they worked 100% of the hours or got paid for 100% of the hours, then I want them to reach $500. Now, if you've got 20 people, you need to work that out and say, okay, if I've got 20 people, but I want everyone, if everyone reaches 100% capacity, what does that look like over the course of 3 months? And let's just call it $5,000, which I don't know if that is. But if that is, you want to be going, okay, I need to budget for $5,000 each quarter. You need to put that money away. And if you don't have trouble with that, give me a call and we'll go through a budgeting system that I have. Okay, so let's go now let's go to the retention program. The retention bonus program. This is fairly easy, fairly quick. You want to make sure that you're going to, well, in my opinion, you want to be rewarding your team. I know that there is a salary cap in every industry. I understand that, but there's things that a practice can and can't afford. I also understand, especially when you're a starter. But as the business grows over a period of time, you want to be rewarding some milestones. For me, I do reward my team members, and it can be 3, 5, 7, or 10 years. I think it's important to reward these people so they can keep them long term. So yes, it does establish employee loyalty. We want to set another budget. Here's the thing about this particular budget. I look at things as over a period of time. So if something is 3 years, fantastic. What are you going to set your budget at? Is it 1% of annual gross, or is it 2%, 3%? Now, for those in America, I know that you already may have a 401k matching, and that's okay. We have in Canada the RRSP matching as well. These are both optionals, but you could also budget for retention. Now, just an FYI, it does cost an average small business $55,000 in training costs to train a new employee. That's $55,000 in 1 year to train one person that may or may not stay on. So if you're going to outlay 55 grand in training costs for a new person that you've just hired to replace someone that asks you for $1 or $2 raise, that $1 or $2, let's go with $2 per hour over a course of a year is about 6 grand, right? But if you're going to employ a new person to replace a person you lost, that's $55,000 on average. That costs a small business. Just do it for thought. So we're going to establish a budget. We're going to set milestones, as I just said. Is it 3, 5, 7, 10, or 9? You can choose, and we'll go through that. It'll be very simple. All right. So this is a very quick example. I've got these milestones at 5, 7, and 10 years. You can change this by just saying 3 years here, no problem. Maybe that's 5 years, maybe that's 7 years. Or you can change this, but we're going to keep it at 5 years here, 7 years, and 10 years. Okay. You're going to set the annual pay. Now, the annual percentage, you can set it the way you like. In this example, we're going to stick to 3, 5, and 8%. So 8% of the annual that's been with me for 10 years. So these are the parameters that we can set. We're going to use 2 examples. I'm going to give you the Canadian version, then I'm going to give you the American version. Actually, you know what? Let's just do them both exactly the same time so you can have an idea what that looks like. We're going to set this one to US. And we're going to do the same here. So these are both the same, just one's in US and one's in Canadian. There's 2 team members in this example. Here we go. All right, so this is where you can see the difference between the 2. Start with the Canadians. Date of entry is the date of today's dates. Let's put today's date. So these are the past dates I've put in, but we can change it to today's date if you like to. I've done these two different ways. So we see one that was done in February, the other one was done in March. And it was done this way, so that way you get to see the difference. Okay, so the date of entry that you put this person on this program. The hire date, the names don't mean anything, but the hire dates do. It gives you a tenure, the tenure, and how many days that they work. So if they work 4 days, 5 days, how many hours per week, hours per day. So then it's total the amount of hours per year. Enter the hourly wage in this instance. This one's at $36, and then I've got the salary. So you get to see the two different versions. So for the Canadians, or even the Americans, they are both earning the base salary of $74,880, same below, and $60,000 for the one below as well. The only difference is Canadians pay more in employer tax than the Americans. Now, it's important to note that we are not paying matching 401k or RRSP. It is just based on the base salary that that employee is going to get. This excludes any benefits because you're only giving the retention bonus based on the salary portion only, and your employer taxes. So we've gone and said, okay, the year five, we're going to give them 3%. 3% of this person, if their total salary was $81,000, we're going to give them $2,432 for the 5-year mark. But what date is that? So that's going to be in 2028 because their hire date was in February 5th, 2023. So we're in 2025. That's a date of entry. I need to put away for that particular person $15.83 a week to pay for their $2,432 at the end of that period. So we've got 3 years to save $2,432, $15.63 per week. Every Monday, you're going to put $16 away for this one person to pay at the end of that 5-year milestone. We'll get into what if they leave. Get into that in a second. So for the salary, same thing for the salary. We're going to pay this person $1,900 because obviously the salary is less. So this person is going to cost you $14.60. Okay. So for this instance, for the Canadians, these two people are going to cost you, almost $30 a week to pay for these two milestones for the 5 years. So you put $30 almost away to pay these two top people. And I guess we would have called it the same for the US portion as well. Slightly less, but not by much. All right, so let's go with the fact that, what's the date today? We've got 3 years, 3 years to pay these two people. So this is going to be $30 a week to put enough money aside to pay for these two people. So look at the top part here. Let's pretend that it's the 5 years gone. The 2028 is 2028 now. We've paid these two people and it's gone to zero. So you make sure you put zero here. Now remember, you set your milestones to 5 or 7 years and 10 years. So the next milestone is 7 years. So now you need to put away an extra $38, let's call it $39 for this person and $31 for the next person. So we need to put away $70 for these two people, okay, just to meet the 7 years. Well, 2 years. Remember, it's now 2028. We've got 2 and a bit years to save for the next milestone of 7 years. So it's $70 per week. Don't stress about that too much and think, I've only got 2 years, because here's the secret. Let's reverse these two. Here's the secret. In this example, we've got 4 people. Okay, granted, that's one's in the US and one's in Canada. That's fine. We're going to leave that there, right? We got to set it for today. Today, well, the entry dates, that's the dates. And this is the money that you need to pay to reach their milestones. Let's just pretend we haven't reached the milestones yet. In the event that those 4 people stay on for the whole 10-year period, and thankfully, great, you would have paid them without any pay rises in between. You would have paid these 4 people $46,597 in the 10 years. That's $60 a week to keep 4 people for 10 years. See this little number here? When you enter everyone that is enrolled in this program, it's going to give you an overall number that you need to put aside for the 10 years. Okay. We'll get into how it changes in a second. But for at least 10 years, at no changes in the annual raises, you're going to pay $59.23. You can put that aside each and every week for 10 years, and that is going to equal $46,597 that you're going to distribute across 10 years amongst your people. Remember, it costs you $55,000 for one employee per year if you need to retrain and retrain. Okay, just want to let you know that. You're going to spread that over 10 years. Okay, all right. So let's go. You have the two top people. You have paid their 5 years out. We're going to say, yes, we had paid the 5 years out. It's giving you what the next payment is. Now, remember how I said you've now changed. So that now it becomes $99. Okay, $99 because you've paid the 5. Great. Now remember, you've already paid money towards it. So now it's $99, total of $42,000. Remember, the total was $46,000. There's $42,000. Okay. But the $43 was just to get to 5 years. Now it's $99 to get to 7 years. And then if we pay the 7 years, now it's $104 to get to the 10 years. Remember, the percentage of the annual has gone up. So I think this one you set it to 8%. So 8% of the annual. You don't have to see, you have to be 8%, it can be 5%, whatever you choose. But again, that's what your parameters have set. $59. Let me just get a calculator. 59.23. Okay. 59.23 is what you need to put aside for the next 5 years. For the next 5 years, each week, 59,000 is going to be put away each week to reach these 4 people in the 5-year mark, or now we've got 3 years left. Okay. So that's what you need to put it away. Now imagine that you've paid everybody. Now you need to put $140 away to reach the next milestone. Okay. Now remember, you've already paid money, so therefore the total over the total monies over the 10-year period has dropped. Right? It was $46,597. You've paid everybody. 5-year mark is gone. Now you're on to the 7-year mark. You've paid almost $9,000 roughly. Now you need to set money aside for the next 2-year mark, being the 7-year milestone. So you've got 2 years to prepare for that. That 2 years is $140. Okay. Now, again, you've set your parameters here. This is set at 3, 5, and 8. You can change it to 6, no problem. Okay. What happens if they get a pay rise at any time? Well, at any time, if they get a pay rise, remember the date of entry is still today. It's still the date that you've put in there. The date of hire remains the same, right? Now you've got to change this pay rate. Let's say this person got a pay rise to, I don't know, $39, and this one got a pay rise to, let's call this 70,000. Okay. Now that has gone up. Remember, we've changed this we've already paid the 5 years. Now it's the 7 years. It's gone up $8 or $4. It's gone up $8. Okay. So now you'll put an extra $8 a week to make up the difference. And remember, it's only the first 2. If we wanted to change the next 2, keep an eye on the per week portion. That's here. Keep an eye on that. We changed it to 39 also. That rose to $151. And this one too, 70,000, that rose to $156 per week. Again, depending on where you've started from to where the next milestone is, already going to calculate that for you. This may all be confusing for you. I know, but it's okay. There's a pre-built spreadsheet that you can just plug in your numbers. It does it all for you. That's the beautiful thing. Okay. So you get to see what the next thing is. Again, yes, budgeting is a thing. You need to make sure you are sticking to your budget. You are putting money aside for this. But Reese, what happens if they leave? No problem. And you didn't get them the bonus? No dramas. You just have to take this out. This person left, right? Take that out. And therefore, this drops down to $114. What happens to the money that was left over? Listen, keep that there and you can use that money for another time, or figure out what you've just saved and then take that out and move it somewhere else. Okay. Just because it's there doesn't mean you have to give it. Just an FYI, it's there in case they reach the milestones. If they leave, using this calculator, you can find out how much you are going to pay them in the 5 years and move that money out somewhere else. Okay. I have 20 people on my retention bonus program. Not everyone stays at 10 years. I've had 5 people stay for 5. That's great. I've got an extra, I think 7 or 8 people on the 3 or 4 years. Will they make to 5? Maybe. I hope, but I don't have to keep retraining new people. Do I give them pay rises? Yeah, absolutely. There is a cap, of course. So what maybe they might ask for $3 or $4 or $5 increase per hour, something like that. I offset it with the retention bonus. Okay. Are the doctors enrolled in this program is the next question. You can if you want to. I have, you don't need to. Okay. All right. Let's change the screens. Questions, I think. Yes, it is. Questions. That's me. If you want to learn more about me, feel free to reach out to me. I'd love to chat to you. If you need these calculators, they are on my websites. There is a free version. If you want this version, reach out to me and I'll go through this with you step by step as well. And you can purchase it from my website as well. Thank you so much for joining me today. Look forward to seeing you guys at the next webinar. If you don't know what they are, please go to the website and look at the events section. There is a special webinar on a benchmarking your core values. Do sign up to that. That one is a beauty. That's a gem. Thank you very much. Take care.